I am feeling like there's a big door that's ready to open. And I'm gonna open it.
I feel like I've been in a dark room stumbling around looking for something and not knowing there was a door. This is something that I'm going to reflect on because I know that I can't continue without that door.
I am determined to deal with things that I have not dealt with well in my past. I feel like this is just going to help all that.
We are more than our thoughts. Our mind is more than our thoughts. When we stand in that space between thoughts, when our mind is in that state, it's saying, I'm open to learning something new. And then I hear something. Something emerges from the nothing. Something emerges from nothing. We witness something come to mind where nothing was there before, except in the body, in feelings, your true self-freedom. I will invite you to go to the place where only you can go. And then when you've returned, to tell us what you found. So the content of this course consists of your stories, your experiences, that when retelling them collectively will provide us with new insights. So let's start. Since the content of this course consists of your stories, our first section pertains to your story of a peak experience. I will tell you a peak experience that I had as a way of inviting you to find your own peak experience that came to mind as I told you my peak experience. And then I will invite you to tell us your story. Your stories become the first content of this course, and we'll explore what you discovered. So here's my peak experience. Here's my story. Several years ago, I learned that Isaac Stern, one of my favorite violinists, was in town, and he would perform accompanied only by a pianist. So I took all of the money that I had to get the very best seat in the house because I wanted to be as close to the front as possible so that I could see him, see his expressions on his face. I'd never really paid any attention to what he looked like, and I couldn't imagine what he looked like in my mind. So there I was now in the concert hall, awaiting the maestro to enter. And as he entered the stage, wearing a formal split black jacket and white shirt, the short, pudgy man waddled across the stage. And I thought to myself, he looks like a penguin. And I could not get that thought out of my mind. He looks like a penguin. I was totally disgusted with myself, but I continued to think that the man looked like a penguin. And then he started to play, and he disappeared. As he continued to play, his violin disappeared. And then as he continued to play, I disappeared. find your Isaac Stern story?
It's hard to share, but I'll share. Let me breathe. When I entered seminary, it was made possible because of a divorce. I had ended a 33-year marriage, and I was free to go move into grad student housing and take a full immersion into what seminary would be like for me. I was there about a year when I met someone that was the most incredible human. 6 weeks after we met, he had a terminal diagnosis, and he was only given a very short time to live. So what do you do when there's 6 weeks already invested, already not invested as in a transaction, but your heart really just goes deep within that period of time. And so I was in fully. So with his treatments and everything that came from this experience, and I'm sure some more about our relationship is going to make its voice heard throughout our course. But as he was dying, and I knew he was dying, I just knew the moment was here. This is what's happening right now. He's going right now. He had been 2 whole days without any communication, kind of becoming more sullen and more gray. But I had that experience of him opening his eyes. His face was as pink and peachy as you can ever imagine, beyond what I could imagine. And he looked at my soul. He looked into my eyes in a way I've only been looked at that one time. And his soul, his heart, everything that he was, looked right at me and smiled in a way that I can't describe. I can just send it to you. And that was one of the most joyful moments that I've experienced in my entire life. I was with white knuckles, knowing that death was coming at any second. And then this gift. I'd like to say we both disappeared at that moment, but I can still see that. I still see his expression to me.
So mine involves death too. I work as a hospice chaplain, and I'm about a year into this work. And early on, I was called to a death, and I didn't even know that I would be called after a patient died. It was I wasn't prepared for that. I had no idea what I was going to do, but I grabbed my bag and I rushed over there. And when I arrived, I was nervous. I'm kind of an introvert and a shy person, and I don't think fast. I'm more of a writer, but I had no choice but to completely trust that the words would be there. And I entered the room, and the gentleman was there. He was dead, and we waited for the family to arrive, and they all brought chairs into this little room, and they're all staring at me. And I got up and I began. And what I did was I anointed him, and then I invited each family member to come up and anoint him. And then I sat down with them and I said, Tell me about Dad. Tell me about Grandpa. Tell me happy stories, because these are the stories that will sustain you. And then when I left, I got in my car and I was driving home, I was overcome suddenly. I felt like crying. I just felt so full. I don't even know what it was. It was inspiration as I returned um, to myself, but I was changed. Um, I had a new understanding that I can trust in those moments, that the words will come.
The story I would like to tell has to do with me going to graduate school. And my husband, our last child had graduated from high school, and so we were empty nesters, and my husband's job ties him to Southern California, and I wanted to go to graduate school in New Jersey, and so he got permission to leave, and he took a job at a much reduced salary in New Jersey so that I could go to school. And I remember moving across the country and all of the expense and the inconvenience and all of that. And I remember the stress of trying to get to campus on time for the first day of orientation. And I don't know if any of you have been to New Jersey, but it's very easy to get lost there. And we got lost on the way to school, and I was worried about being late, yada yada. And I got to the building where to the hall where school was, and frantically went into the bathroom, and went to the bathroom, and I washed my hands, and I just have a habit of smelling my hands afterwards, because I like to, I don't know, sample soap smells or whatever. But the smell of the soap was a sign to me that everything was going to be okay. So it's a silly thing, but even now it makes me cry. And everything was okay. So, yeah.
As you told your stories, and as you listened to the stories of others, what thoughts and feelings came to mind? If I've asked the wrong question, answer the right one. Where are you now? What's going on?
I feel very connected to everyone. I feel honored to be let in to these stories that are very meaningful, and I don't know, I felt like I was going to cry with every story. So that's where the connection is. Our stories might be different, but there's things that we share, and so it just made me feel more connected to everyone.
It was my experience while I was telling my story and also listening to Kathleen's and Teresa's stories that they started with fear, and I felt their fear. I felt the fear of the death in the room, the death that was greeting me. And also for Teresa, the fear of starting grad school. After driving across the country, I was also sensing total exhaustion and total energizing at the same time. But just wasn't expecting the smell of soap to be the joy, or that death would be the joy. That trust. That's kind of where I am, in awe of how both are so interwoven.
Go back, if you will, to your experience again, and try as best you can to write one sentence in which you to describe how you felt at the peak of your story. So the first word should be I. I felt, I experienced. One sentence. It gets as close as possible to a description of how you felt at the peak of your peak experience. I felt, I experienced, I was. Okay, please read your sentence aloud twice, slowly and without comment.
I trusted and felt held. I trusted and felt held.
I felt a joyful calm. I felt a joyful calm.
I sensed that Robert was so proud of me and that he was sending me into my future with his promise that he would always be connected to my soul. I sensed that Robert was so proud of me and that he was sending me into my future with his promise that he would always be connected to my soul.
What do you find most striking or similar about the statements read?
The sense of knowing.
I was going to say a sense of comfort.
Yes, both of those, knowing and comfort.
A sense of knowing, a sense of comfort. We're talking about a particular kind of consciousness. There is this state of consciousness that's always present. And somehow, if you simply pivot your consciousness, there you are in this deeply sane, connected, loving, felt space of alignment. So this course is an exploration of that state of consciousness of yours. This is not a theoretical course because you have already described the state to me. This isn't something woo-woo. You don't have to study for 12 years or go on a retreat to see if you can find it. We're simply going to explore it since you have already defined it in your sentence as your I. So what we want to know is, what the heck is the state of consciousness?